Hello, everybody, and welcome to Squibbler's weekly webinar. Today, we are really focusing on our nonfiction writers, and we're going to talk about building authority and writing a nonfiction book that's going to help you grow your brand. So tune in for this, and we'll help you set up your goals for your brand. So in this webinar, you're going to learn how to find your audience. You'll learn some strategies for creating a marketing plan, and you'll learn some tips for marketing your book and building your brand as well. So there are three big rules to remember. They're the golden rules when you're going to market your book. You want to know your genre and your audience. That's very important. You also have to remember that you are your book's best marketer. No one else is going to know your book better than you do. And you also know yourself. You're not just going to be marketing your book, as you'll see during the course of the seminar. You're also going to be marketing yourself. So the first step, of course, is to know your genre. And for any marketing plan to be successful, the writer needs to know the genre that she's writing in. Because readers that are interested in those genres are going to search bookstores online, in person, and by genre. So if you misfile your romance, for example, let's say you put your romance under drama, you're going to miss out on your core audience. So that's really, really important. Make sure you know the genre you're working in. You also need to know your audience. That's the second thing. So 80% of readers in the UK, Canada, and the US are female. And if they're part of your target audience, what strategies will you use to convince them to buy your book? You really have to think about this. How will you reach the vast majority of your readers? But that doesn't mean that you're targeting just women. You have to think about your book and how you're going to market if your target audience is, for example, male, if it's a young adult audience, or if it's a children's book market. How will you reach your audience? You do need to do some research on your audience as well. A good way to get an idea of your readership is to look up books in the same genre that you're writing. So one good place to do that is Goodreads. It's a free website, and it's excellent for marketplace research. You can look at books in specific genres. For example, if you're writing a memoir, if you're writing self-help, if you're writing an educational book, this is a good place to see what works are popular and who is reading these books. And you can also kind of do a little bit of investigation as to what their interests are. Do these people read memoirs? If they read one memoir, do they tend to read more than one? Do people who like to read nonfiction science books buy a lot of other nonfiction science books? So do a little bit of research there and see who your core audience will be. You also need to know yourself. One of the big tricks about marketing is that you're not just marketing your book. It's not really about your book. It's about you when you're writing nonfiction and what you're bringing to the proverbial table. This is especially true for self-help and nonfiction writing. So how are you going to present yourself to the readers that you have in mind? They're going to have to know something about you and your qualifications for writing the book. So make a list of skills that make you the ideal writer for the book that you're writing or that you have written already. Are you a life coach, for example? So what skills make you a natural at writing a self-help book? If you're a physical trainer, why are you the correct person to write a book on muscle movement and breathing? These are all things to think about and list for yourself before you begin your marketing plan. No matter if you're writing fiction or nonfiction or a screenplay, you should be able to answer this question in an interesting way without hesitation. You ready? The question is, what is your book or script about? The answer isn't that the person asking you wants to hear a chapter by chapter breakdown. They don't want to hear about the plot. They want to know what the core of your book is. So for example, with Yuval Harari's book, Sapiens, it's not just an academic study of anthropology. It questions innately what it means to be human. You also want to think about what is in your book that is universal. Are you writing about relationships? Are you writing about leadership? Are you writing about struggles? Are you writing about biology? These are all things that are universal topics. And then what is the message that you're trying to share? You are going to be the best spokesperson for this message by the time your book is ready. You'll know a lot about it and you'll know how to present it. You do want to do some other things to prepare yourself once your book is near completion. You want to prepare your social media websites. Nonfiction writers especially need to have a social media presence. Fiction does too, but it's more crucial for nonfiction writers. This way, if someone is Googling a topic that you're known for, they might also find your social media site. Or someone might talk about your book and they want to look up your qualifications on LinkedIn if they're interested in the same topic that your book is about. So make sure that you've prepared these ahead of time. You also don't need to keep up with all branches of social media. So you don't have to do an Instagram and a TikTok and a LinkedIn, but you should have at least one solid updated social media platform that you're going to use, whether it is LinkedIn or TikTok or Instagram, Substack. It also helps to think about what audience are using these sites and whether or not they're your ideal readers. So, for example, are you going to read young adult readers better on Instagram or TikTok? There are certain age groups that prefer certain forms of social media. So keep that in your mind as you're thinking about it. Another thing to do to prepare your social media is to delete any irrelevant information from the social media platform that you're going to use. This is especially important on LinkedIn, where we all put our skills in there and then we sometimes forget to update them. For nonfiction, a lot of the times people will look at your qualifications. So you want to be as clear on LinkedIn as you can be. You also want to use a clear and current photo. It should show what you look like now, not 20 years ago. People will be very confused if they look at one of your social media sites and it's updated and another one shows you when you were, a teenager. You also don't want to list any irrelevant skills or awards. You want to keep things aligned to the book that you are marketing. And it's also, as I said before, important to delete any social media that you don't use so readers won't try to find you there. So if you found that you haven't posted on, for example, X for a long time, just delete it. It's pointless to use it if you're not going to update it constantly. You do want to have a couple things ready for your marketing plan as well, and you should prepare this before your book is ready to be published. So in order to market it well, you should have what's called an author biography document. This can be digital. It can be paper if you're planning to go in person to a bookstore. But or if you're going to send it to agents or publishers or interviewers, you may need to have this ready. So what is an author bio package? This is a package that should include a good photo of you, normally a headshot, a good photo of your book, the cover page. It should have your social media information, your Instagram handle, your TikTok handle, your LinkedIn address, whatever it is that you're using most frequently. And then you should have at least a little short paragraph about yourself and your qualifications for writing this book. You can also include questions that people can ask you if you're planning to do interviews. So they're not just coming up to you and asking the very lame question that some people do, what's your book about? And if you watch late night television, this is how actors and musicians, when they're going to be interviewed by Jimmy Kimmel or something, they will have already had a packet sent out to give to the interviewer that has pre-made questions on them. It's going to help. So you can talk best about what you want to discuss. You can also think about doing book signings, and there are more ways to do this than you probably imagined. Most large book retailers in person, like Books A Million, won't really support new authors for book signings. So if you're self-publishing or you're new to writing, they don't often help you with this. It is helpful to approach smaller independent book dealers. This can be a really big win-win for them. So your smaller stores in where you live may be the place to go, but they need to make money from your event. So they can't just sanction off a spot for you and hire employees to stay there while you're running your event. So one way to do this is make sure that your friends and family come to purchase a book directly from the bookstore where you're planning to stage the event. That way the bookstore will make money, you'll get your book out, you'll get some marketing done, and everybody leaves happy. Another tip for book signings is if you have a good network of friends and colleagues, you can think outside of the box about where you might host your book signing. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a bookstore. For instance, if you wrote a cookbook, a place like a brewery or a wine bar is a great place to showcase your work. It's a good place to have like a little, snack tray and stuff too, so people can go around and talk and meet with each other, and the brewery or the wine bar can make money. If you wrote a devotional book, something that's religious, you can also approach your local church or mosque or synagogue or temple. This is a good place to talk to your audience about your book and sell some copies. You can easily send out digital book event flyers by designing them yourself on Canva. You can even look for these type of flyers, and they're already set up. They're easy enough to change on canva.com. Some other tips is that you want to optimize your book's metadata, especially if you're going to set it up on Amazon's direct publisher. So make sure that your book title, your subtitle, your keywords, and descriptions are all optimized for search engines. So relevant keywords that readers might search for when they're looking for a book like yours is going to show up for them. This is going to increase your platforms on places like Amazon. You can look at keywords that are listed on Amazon for books that are similar to yours. So for example, if you're writing a book on leadership, you can look at top selling leadership books on Amazon. Take a look at the keywords they're using in their descriptions of the book. You can also leverage your network that you have. This is especially true if you're in a business field. Don't be shy about promoting your book to your professional and personal colleagues and networks. You'll be surprised by how many people are willing to support you, and they love to talk to authors. Reach out to friends and colleagues and family member and anybody else who might be interested, because word of mouth can be really powerful. And unfortunately, for a lot of us writers, we are introverted. You're going to have to kind of get over that. It's really best to learn how to be open, to rely on other people, and to talk about your work confidently. Go back. Another tip that you can do is to offer a free chapter or sample on your website or your social media if you have one. You want to give readers a taste of your book by offering a free chapter or a short excerpt on your website. And you can exchange this for email addresses. So you can offer to send it to people through email, which is going to help you build a mailing list if you decide to keep writing or you are going to have ongoing promotion for the book that you're working on. You can also use social media advertising. Places like Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn ads can be effective tools to reach your target audience. And Facebook's can be very, very cost effective as well. These platforms are going to allow you to narrow down your audience based on their interests, their demographics, and their behaviors. So once you've figured out who your target audience is, either by age or by gender, you can input that. And then you can put the topic that you're writing about, for example, physical fitness, life coaching, anything that you can imagine in the nonfiction world. You can look for interests so you'll reach your target audience directly. You also want to engage with relevant communities. So you can do this by joining online communities and forums and groups related to the topic of your book. You can share valuable insights, and when it's appropriate, you can mention your book. No spamming, though. You want to avoid spamming, but you can talk about this and kind of sneak in there that, well, I've written a book on this topic. And then if somebody asks, you can put the title and a link to your Amazon page if you'd like to. So this is a really good idea. It's a really good for networking as well. And as long as you're a cheerful and a polite person when you're representing yourself online, people are more willing to not only buy your book, but also to spread the word about you as an author. You can also get book reviews. You can reach out to bloggers, to influencers, and fellow authors who review books that are in the same genre you're writing. So you can ask your early readers to leave reviews for you on platforms like Amazon and Goodreads. If you're a college graduate, you can offer your campus newspaper or the Alumni Association newsletter a copy for review as well. If you live in a town that has smaller newspapers or a city with smaller newspapers, you can also offer them a free copy for their literary critic to read as well. And positive reviews are always going to boost credibility and increase visibility as well. Another thing to do if you are limited by environment where you are, maybe you're living in a rural area and you don't have much contact with other people, you can host a virtual launch. You can organize a book launch on platforms like Zoom, on YouTube Live, or Facebook Live. You're going to invite your network and give a presentation on your book's topic. You can answer questions there and offer special deals on your book during the event. So all of this is going to help you to get the word out as well, especially if you're isolated. It's also a good idea to create a content marketing strategy. You might want to write some blog posts related to the topic that you're writing about, some articles, or guest posts on relevant websites related to your book's subject. You can position yourself as an expert while subtly promoting your book. And when you're posting on other people's sites, if you're a guest blogger or something like that, they will have your name, and then they will put usually at the bottom that you have written a book titled, the title of your book. So people can look to see your book after they've read your post. You can also create related videos or podcast contents. A lot of authors have in nonfiction have gone on to have successful podcasts as well. So if that's something you're interested in doing, it might be something to consider. Another way is to offer special deals or giveaways. You can organize limited time discounts or giveaways for your book, especially around your launch period when it's new. This is going to create a sense of urgency for readers and encourage them to get the book while it's at the lowest price possible. So we're almost at the end of this webinar, but I did want to remind you, if you remember nothing else, remember that marketing a self-published book is going to take time and effort, right? But with consistency, you can gradually build visibility and grow your readership and your brand. And don't forget, you are not your book. Your book is an expression of you. So you really are sharing something about yourself through your book. So in this webinar, we've reviewed how to find your audience. We talked about some strategies for creating a marketing plan. We also had some tips for marketing your book and building your brand and increasing your social media presence. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate having you here, and we look forward to seeing you next week